Hello students, in this video we are discussing second chapter of economics, that is sectors of Indian economy. Shall we start now? Come on. In Indian economy we have classified into three sectors. One, primary, secondary and tertiary sector. This division has been made considering nature of work. Second category of the economy is organized and unorganized. So name itself tells what is organized. If they follow rules and regulations of the government, it is organized. If they don't follow the rules and regulations, that is called unorganized sector. So second category of classification is organized, unorganized. And the third one is public sector and private sector. Public sector and private sector on the basis of ownership. If it is organized by, controlled by, owned by the government, is called public sector. If it is owned by, controlled by, decision taken by the private people, private individual, it is called private sector. So on the basis of the nature of work, on the basis of following rules and regulations, on the basis of ownership, we will be classifying the economy. Not only Indian economy, any other economies in the world. So they have been classified into three categories: primary, secondary and tertiary, organized, unorganized, and public, private sector. So we have understood on what basis the economy is classified. So next we will be discussing the primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector, why they called so. Shall we discuss now? See, the primary sector is so called because it has been started initially by the man after the evolution on the earth. That's why it is called as primary sector. We can also call it as primary sector because we are exploiting nature and getting raw material directly from the nature. That's why we call it as primary sector. Secondary sector, name itself tells. Secondary means we are getting raw material from primary sector and processing it. That's why we call it as secondary sector. Here, all type of industries come under this sector. It may be agro-based industry, mineral-based industry, large-scale industry, small-scale industry, private industry, public industry, whatever the industries, manufacturing industries, they come under secondary sector. So secondary sector, why we call it as secondary sector? Because it gets raw material from primary sector. So it is processing the raw material and make it as usable good. That's why we call it as secondary sector. Tertiary sector means which provides service to the people, those who are engaging in primary and secondary sector. What type of service? Education, insurance, entertainment, trade, whatever it is, banking, information, communication. So these are all the type of services provided by tertiary sector. That's why it is also called as service sector. So these three sectors are not independent. They are all interdependent. You know the meaning of interdependence. Interdependence means they can't exist. One can't exist without the help of other one. That is what you call interdependence. Take an example. How we can say that they are all interdependent? In this example, we can understand. Agriculture, the farmer raises the crop To raise the crop, he needs many agricultural implements. For example, tractors, tillers, improved seeds. So these are all things, inputs come from secondary sector. So with the help of that, he can raise the crop. After harvesting, he wants it to take it to the market, and he wants information in which place he gets better price for his agricultural good. So he wants information, he wants transportation, so he depends on tertiary sector. To raise the crop, he want implements that is provided by secondary sector. So primary sector person, that means a farmer, using secondary sector and tertiary sector, using in the sense getting the service of secondary sector and tertiary sector to raise the crop and sell it in the market. In the same way, secondary sector depends on primary sector because of raw material, and tertiary sector people depends on primary sector because primary sector provides them food. So these three sectors are interdependent, not independent. So this is the most important thing frequently asked in the examination. So it has to be written if it is asked. These are all not independent. These are all interdependent. Economy gets income, its own income. It is called as national income. We call it as GDP. So here we have to see what contribution is given by different sectors. We have seen the sectors, primary, secondary, and tertiary. Now it's turn to inquire, to understand what is the contribution of each sector to GDP. Before understanding the contribution, we should know what is GDP first. GDP means its expansion is gross domestic product. Gross domestic product. That means the value of goods and services produced in the economy in a financial year. This is what we call GDP. Value of final goods. Final goods in the sense finished goods that has been come out of the boundary of production. This is what we call final good. Raw material we don't consider because it can be used in the next financial year also. That's why to measure national income, GDP, we consider only final good. For example, to prepare sugar, we need sugar cane. So sugar cane value is in sugar itself. That's why we consider sugar as the GDP, not sugar cane value. So like that, we consider only final goods value of all the sectors in a financial year. This is called GDP. So then contribution to GDP from primary sector is very less when compared to dependency of the people. More than 50% of people are depending on primary sector, but still its contribution is around 18-19% to the GDP. Why? Let us discuss now. In recent years, service of tertiary sector is getting more importance. What may be the reason for increasing importance of tertiary sector? So let us see now. The first one, several services like hospital, education, the communication, these are all required by the people. It has been necessary services. So it is called as basic services. And developing countries, the government has taken responsibility for the provision of all these three services, all these services. That's why that importance has been increased. The second reason why importance has increased, greater the development, the necessary of service sector also increases. So because of the improvement of primary and secondary sector, that needs the service of tertiary sector. This is the second reason why the importance has been increased nowadays. And the third reason is when income increases, when income rises of the people, they need so many services like tourism, health insurance, entertainment, foreign trip. So these are all things the people need if their income increases. So increase of income is also another one reason for increasing importance of tertiary sector. In these days, certain new services, they are based on information and communication. So because of that, the tertiary sector has become very essential, without which we can't do anything. See, for example, nowadays, because of this pandemic, we switched over to digital class. So these situations also make the people use the tertiary sector service. So some basic services, necessities has increased the importance of tertiary sector. So tertiary sector rising importance because of many reasons. One, some services the government is providing as improvement of primary and secondary sector, tertiary sector service becomes necessary. Then increase in the income of people, they want more services. And nowadays we have to depend on technology because of some circumstances. Now see, the contribution to GDP, tertiary sector contribution is increasing when compared to primary sector. Unfortunately, in primary sector, more people are depending, unnecessarily depending. That is what we call disguised unemployment. We will be understanding disguised unemployment in next video, second video. So more people are depending on primary sector, less they contribute. Less people are depending on tertiary sector, more they contribute to the GDP. Why it happens? So what measures to be taken to increase the employment opportunity in primary sector and how to make it to contribute more to GDP? So these are all the things we'll be discussing in the next video. So this is what the contribution of GDP from various sectors. In this video, we have understood sectors of Indian economy, on what basis the Indian economy has been classified: primary, secondary, tertiary, organized, unorganized, then private sector and public sector, then sectoral contribution to GDP. Nowadays, more people are depending on agriculture and increasing importance of tertiary sector and the meaning of GDP and the meaning of final goods, value of final goods. These are all the various small concepts we have understood. So in the next video, we will be discussing why GDP contribution is less in primary sector and what measures to be taken. And with that, we will also be discussing what is the difference between organized sector and unorganized sector, and public sector and private sector. So we will be meeting soon in the next video. Thank you.